Hi, I thought I'd just put this study guide on YouTube just in case you guys want to review it one more time. All the multiple choice will come from the Units 1 and 2 exams and those only, okay? There'll be 10 of those. There are 3 or 4 short answers, and you'll need to know things like color theory, the complementary colors, red, green, blue, orange, yellow, purple, analogous colors. There's 3 analogous families: red to yellow and all the oranges in between, red to blue and all the purples in between, and blue to yellow and all the greens in between. Monochromatic, one color, primary, secondaries, all that. Know the formal elements well enough to use them in your analysis. Okay. Foreshortening, remember that's an extreme foreshortening with something coming right out at you. Okay. We talked about color theory. Different kinds of pencils. Remember, the higher the B, 2B, 4B, 6B, 9B, whatever, the softer the lead, the darker the mark. Higher the H, 1H, 2H, 5H, 9H, the harder the lead and the softer the mark will make, okay? The differences between oil and water-based paints. Oil-based paints dry slow, have very rich color, and are worked and cleaned up with mineral spirits, which makes them flammable and caustic. You know, examples of oil-based paints: oils, enamels, and spray paints. Some inks. Water-based paints dry fast. They are worked and cleaned up with water, but the color quality tends to be a little flatter, a little less rich. Types of water paints are watercolor, tempera, fresco, acrylic, and gouache. Okay. The entire process for creating the raku pot, that's listed there on your study guide. The 3 different categories for printmaking: relief, planography, and intaglio, or intaglio is the way it looks like it's spelled. Okay. Relief, carve into usually something, and the raised surface is what's printed and inked and printed. In intaglio, you usually take a metal plate and you etch it or scratch into it, and it's the incised or carved in areas that keep the ink, and that's what prints. And planography, on the plane, on a flat surface. Any type of printmaking done on a flat surface. For relief, there's stamping, lino cut, and woodcut. For planography, there is lithography, silkscreen, and photo silkscreen. And for intaglio, the ones we discussed were mezzotint, etching, engraving, aquatint. Okay. The basic floor plan of the Gothic Cathedral, which is in your study guide, the 7 steps of lost wax casting, which is on your slide here, and the differences: impasto, thick application of that paint on the canvas or the surface. Okay, it can be any kind of paint, but it needs to be thick and we can actually see it. Adds a visual element because of the raised surface. And intarsia, that's that thin wood inlay that you kind of think of wood as being sort of used as mosaics to create an effect. Usually it's 3-dimensional, but it can be a lot of different things. Let's go on to the next one. The Kehinde Wiley film, if you can see it, please do. King Menkaure and Queen, Ancient Egypt. We see here 2 3-dimensional sculpture pieces that are facing fully frontal, directly at the viewer. The pharaoh is being portrayed here as the eternal, all-powerful, perfect God and God King on earth. The pharaoh. So he must be those things if he's all-powerful and if he's going to do the things he needs to do in the afterlife. His queen is also portrayed this way. She's got his arm around behind him, supporting him, as a wife would do at those times. He is got his foot of power. His authority is being claimed literally with that foot. Stepping forward slightly. Okay? These two sculptures, this sculpture is actually will set the artistic style for 3,000 years because it is governed by a strict set of artistic laws that govern how the pharaoh must be portrayed proportionally, the texture on his skin. He must look perfectly smooth and ideal, without flaw, without blemish. There's no folds in the fabric. There's no texture. There's no age. There's nothing there except that he is absolutely perfect. That's what we call stylized, and forever that way. That's what I mean by static on the slide. As opposed to another art piece from ancient Greece that is also governed by a set of artistic mathematical laws. The Doryphoros of Polykleitos. Polykleitos is the artist. This is ancient Greece. You would need to mention humanism, contrapposto, and what that is, and the fact that he is meant to be an ideal. He's not a man that can be picked out on the street. He's the ideal, that idea of the perfection possible in the human form. That's why Polykleitos created the stance, the contrapposto stance, to make him look more human, and why he's also so symmetrically, divided and muscular, the way he's absolutely perfectly proportioned, and the way that he's got no blemish, and he is, for the Greeks, an ideal physical specimen. Remember the humanism, okay? So there we go. All right, and we're moving on. The Northern versus the Italian Renaissance. On this slide, Raphael's crucifixion. These are both crucifixions, okay? But Raphael's is the Italian one. And we notice that it's a symmetrical type of layout and composition. Christ looks ideal. Remember, the Italians take humanism, and remember the Renaissance is the rebirth of humanism. They take humanism, but they want to take it and make it ideal. So that's why Christ looks so healthy and almost sort of at rest. The color in the landscape and in the sky is very vivid and pure and sort of perfect, okay? The people look at the bottom here. They're very composed and calm. This is all part of that calm, cool idealism of the Italian Renaissance. The angels are celebrating in their sort of dance-like lyrical movement and lyrical line conveyed in their sashes on either side of the Christ capturing his blood. As opposed to the Northern Renaissance, that is Eisenheim Altarpiece by Grunwald. This is the Northern Renaissance. They believe in humanism too, but they've taken it and they've decided to tell the truth about the actual Bible story as written in the Bible, okay? So we have the correct that nighttime look, even though it's 3 in the afternoon, of the time when Christ actually died, which is what the story conveys. We actually have the correct setting. The landscape is Mount Golgotha, or the place in the Middle East. The Christ is twisted, emaciated. He looks like he has suffered. His hands are splayed. The skin is peeling off of him, okay? North is interested in telling the truth. They're also interested in fine detail and extreme focus. I mean, that everything is just perfectly, every hair would be able to be told on that Mary Magdalene. She is wailing. The Virgin is passing out in grief. Okay, these are all true feelings that a human would have in response to this. We also have the symbolism in the Lamb of God. That's a hallmark of the Northern Renaissance. This piece is going into, let me get this here real quick, there we go. This piece is going into a hospital for people who suffer with skin diseases. That's why the Christ has got that peeling, extra peeling sort of look on his skin, that texture. Because the sufferer who's sitting in the hospital looking in his chapel at this altarpiece is going to know that Christ knows his suffering as well as you're supposed to remember that he suffered for you. All right, moving on. Guernica, Pablo Picasso. Everything is on the slide for this, really. We're talking about no color, pattern, shape, shattered space. This is an event that this is art and social protest. He is protesting the fact that Franco has allowed Nazi Germany to test bomb on his own countrymen, and nobody knew about it. Hence the patterning of the newspaper is hinted at here. The light is the light of, he's basically shedding the light on the situation. That's symbolized here. The bull is symbolizing Spain. That's symbolizing here. But we definitely get the idea of the chaos, which is conveyed by the shattered space. Okay. Yeah, move on. There we go. AIDS, the AIDS quilt, the NAMES project. This is art and community and art and social protests. Formal element wise, we've got pattern, we've got scale, it's huge, okay? And we've got some rhythm, we've got coloring, we've got textile arts, okay? But we've also got a piece of not only textile art or crafts, but we've also got a performance art piece and an installation. The community made this artwork to serve the community through social protest. They are protesting the fact that the government hasn't even recognized AIDS, let alone put any money towards research. This is their call to action, a cry, a plea for help. That's why it's in this space, right on the Washington Mall. The Wix Hines piece, the powerhouse mechanic working on steam pump. Okay, this is a man and machine sort of photograph. Remember, Wix Hines often talking about the brutality or the inhumanity, how man is losing himself in the industry of the industrial age, where we just become so many cogs in the wheel of the industry, churning out whatever it is, whether it's child labor or in this case this young man. He is powerfully built, and he's been chosen because he is so muscular. He's holding that wrench, which connects him physically to the machine. We also see the kind of rhythm, visual rhythm, in the arc of his back versus the arc of the, what do you call that? This sort of cog here, as well as that steam pipe that's behind him. Okay, they're all arcing, all those circles, all those cogs, all those wheels. Remember, he's just another cog in the wheel of the machine. He's even physically connected to it through the wrench. We have monochromatic color, of course, because it's a black and white photograph. No, excuse me, not monochromatic, no color. Don't say that. Anyway, that's all kind of makes it all sort of blend together. He just becomes more of the machine. If this photograph was in full color, it wouldn't be nearly as powerful, would it? So let's move on. The Andre Serrano, The Morgue, a commentary about gun violence and modern death. We have foreshortening and contrast working here to definitely capture our attention. Notice how the photographer is kind of cut off in his image the head of the person. This harkens back to a flip side of Andre Mantegna's Lamentation of the Dead Christ, which we did see when we looked at foreshortening earlier this semester. He's been autopsied. He's in a body bag. The brutality, the namelessness of this man, that's why his head is cut off. The nameless, pointless, fruitlessness of modern gun violence and modern death can be felt here. That plastic, you can just be just so many bags, so many numbers, than in a morgue. That's the way you're going to end up. these days is also being commented on, as opposed to what happened earlier before the 20th and the 21st century, when people tended their own death in a respectful manner. There was some loving, usually loving sort of send-off, respect, honoring of the dead. It's not so much anymore. All right, where are we? Oh, the Judy Chicago show. Art and gender. 300 women got together to create this piece about, it's supposed to be a celebration of women, famous women of history. This is a piece of art and craft. It's a craft piece as well as an installation. But it was controversial. Well, first of all, because of its subject matter, what's on the plate being portrayed. Secondly, because Judy Chicago took sole ownership of the show, even though 300 women artists created this show. Ceramicists, weavers, stitchers, embroiderers, painters, everything. They took the famous women of history and decided to portray them this way. The question is begged, is this the way a woman, a serious woman, of serious historical significance and contribution, wants to be remembered for this, in this way, wants to be honored this way? That's a good question. I think today most women would say absolutely not. I don't know why they thought of this, but that's all what this piece is about, and that's what makes it so controversial. There it is, some more. Yeah, more. Okay. Goya. We've got him here. This is an artist who changed his personal message, but not his style, over the evolution of his career because of what happened to him in his life. He is the court painter to King Carlos IV of Spain, who is being portrayed here. And after the war, excuse me, with the French, Goya, who's lost almost I think he only has one child left that lives, and he starts to go deaf, and he sees the abuses of war. He portrays them in the disasters of war, the series of prints that we see at the top here, talking about the brutality, the butchery of it all. And then we have him here in his black paintings, the so-called black paintings, Saturn devouring his children. Saturn is King Carlos, and his children are his populace, are his countrymen that he's supposed to be protecting. His children, the father figure. He's eating them. That means that they've been sacrificed for something for him, and he's talking about the war. Goya goes deaf, mad. He's imprisoned after this for a while. He does not have a happy end, but notice how the theme of his work changes 180 degrees over the course of his life because of what happened to it. But the look of his artwork, the style, that realistic painterly sort of style, does not. And then, of course, art for art's sake. Remember, art for art's sake simply means that great art, need not have any deeper meaning other than the investigation of the formal elements of the artist's choice. Good luck, study, and do well. Have a good day.